This is The Big Breakdown, a long look back at some of the biggest stories we're covering for you at the Hidden Killers podcast and True Crime Today. This is Hidden Killers Live with Tony Brueski, Stacey Cole, and Todd Michaels.
We're talking about what's going on right now with, call it a cover-up, call it a conspiracy, whatever you want to call it, the inaction, basically, of the Department of Justice as of right now, not diving in, not investigating, basically taking all of the information that we have recently learned in that letter from Congress to Pam Bondi, stating, you had 50 witnesses, you got an investigation into 20 co-conspirators, people who were working with Epstein, being basically, the customers as well of Epstein, and these 50 witnesses, and them saying, nope, there's nothing here, nothing to see. They're all not credible. Never mind the fact it's what put Ghislaine Maxwell away. Never mind the fact it's what was the inspiration for stripping Prince Andrew of all of his titles of being in the royal family. So clearly, there's some legs to this information, and the fact that the FBI and the DOJ is saying we're not going to touch that right now, for no explanation. Despite it being a massive promise to the public as a whole, to the people they serve, that we are going to dig into this, we are going to dive, and we are going to expose whoever needs to be exposed. Party be damned, we're going to do the right thing. And now when it's their turn to shine, when the spotlight is on them, they're like, nothing to see here. Turns out that it's all a big myth.
You know why?
Damn well it's not. Why?
I think having read that exquisite book by the brave Guffrey,
Giuffre, Virginia Giuffre,
Nobody's Girl. When you saw and get an understanding of Epstein's non-political corruption of everyone he touched. Yeah, I think when all these people came out with these they were assuming, they were hardcore thinking, most likely in their brains, it's got to be them. It's not our party, it's them. And then when they got into office, then when they're actually reading the files, then we're listening to the accounts of these, I think, how many girls did they finally identify total? I mean, there's like 200, I think, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They saw it's not just one party. It's not just one academic institution. Yeah. It is everyone at this time, everyone. It touches all of these narcissistic megalomaniac asses at this high level, so that if they expose one, this entire network that Epstein created, this monster factory, is going to undermine everything and everyone. That's why I think they're not exposing it, because everyone's going down with it.
And that's the reality of it too. It's not, and it's not just that this is a big house of cards, and it's just only their trail of destruction with abusing these women. These people are placed in the house of cards of every piece of our lives, of every institution in our country. And when you essentially put dynamite in all these different spots and then press the button and it all blows up, you destruct the building and everything with it. And then everyone's like, whoa, how do we fix all these holes around here? I mean, so many things will be affected by this if this information comes out and if these people are exposed, because they're key people in key places, in all sorts of key parts of life, in areas that no one is seeing coming, as being suddenly gone. And what sort of damage it will do, it's going to be catastrophic, but it needs to be done. Otherwise, it's just, well, let's keep this pattern going. Let's keep them bringing in more folks who are going to think the same way and keep abusing people in the same patterns that have been going on before. But it feels that, I feel like for so long, the fear has been, well, taking them all out, is it worth the damage that it will do to so many things? And I feel at this point, the American people are saying, yeah, we've been through enough shit. We've been traumatized enough by all this stuff. What's another societal trauma at this point? If it's going to at least take out a good chunk of these people that are still active These aren't historical figures that are hiding away. They're still very active in every piece of our world today. And yeah, it's time to call them out. But again, you have those people in all these different places. That's precisely why there's this level of power where they're basically telling us the sky is not blue and expecting us to believe it.
And to Duncan's question about why haven't these girls actually named them, in Jenna's book, even though Jenna came out in Nobody's Girl and named a lot of them, she said even in her death, she was afraid to expose some of these people because of the impact it could have on their families, on her legacy, on their livelihood, on their lives. The fear factor is immense. And as you're describing that, Tony, I was going back to other cases we've covered and the differences in them. So let's take a look at the Diddy case.
Yeah,
Diddy is very similar in a sense of we had trafficking, we had sexual abuse, some potentially minors in there, and yet Diddy was more like, if you're thinking of I think of these things and these people as cancers, right? Diddy was more like a prostate cancer. He's something that you could isolate, you could radiate it, and you could remove it. But this thing like Epstein, since it was so encompassing, it's more like lymphatic cancer.
It's everywhere.
There's no way to capture it all. I think it is so widespread because I tell you, he knew how to protect himself. Yeah. He knew how to, and that's why he acted so brazenly. Him and Ghislaine as well were so brazen what they're doing, acting with total impunity with everyone and everything because they captured everyone in every single circle, both sides, so no one could play one side against the other. He was the master of manipulating the entire world and corrupting them to his way of thinking. He normalized, I think he attempted to normalize this behavior with people who didn't even want it. Because when you listen to Jenna's book, he was throwing these young girls at guys in their 80s that were even impotent in the rooms. And you can imagine that these guys were told, hey, I got a really good young girl up here. She's great at giving massages. And the guy's like, really? That's kind of odd. Okay, I'll get a massage. And the girls are then being instructed to go service them like you service me, like you service so-and-so. And these guys are like, what? And all of a sudden they're compromised. Because they had a little bit of inkling, that a little bit of creepy in them, and wham, he's got them.
Yeah. Stacey, what are we looking at in the comments for right now?
A lot of great stuff. Alicia says humans are complicated. As Robin said, they are motivated by many different factors. Candy says, name all the names. Name them. And that was something I was going to ask. Again, there seems to be this cloud of fear. People know the names. And nobody's talking. You talked about loose lips, that people who've left the Bureau, left the DOJ, they have to know these names, but people are not talking. There is something terrifying the living crap out of these people. What is it?
I think they just don't want to, first of all, they don't want to be associated with it because it'll destroy their personal brands. And if you even put think about it, if you even put your name in any way next to the Epstein name, you're going to be blacklisted and rightfully so. And Jenna even talked about this in her book. And one of the challenges they had is that there's a lot of people associated with Epstein that traveled to his island, that went to the parties, kind of like the Diddy. Think about it with the Diddy parties.
Yeah.
You had the Diddy parties, and then you had the white party afterwards. Then you had when everyone was sent home. So here's the challenge with investigating this is that, all right, who was just associated with Epstein and who was really with Epstein? And so that becomes part of it. And so it's hard because there's not a lot of facts and data and details to differentiate the two between. And so if you're anywhere affiliated with it, whether you're just going to shut up silently away because again, whether it's true or not, remember for years there was lots of strange, really horrific coincidences of people that ever had anything to say about the Clintons all of a sudden wound up committing suicide and being dead.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I think a lot of people have a lot of fear over what's going to happen to me if my name's even affiliated, if I'm even going to say anything, so the fear, again, humans are complicated-ish, but we are all motivated by fear. But what fear looks like to each of us is what is different. And so that's why they're all living in fear. I guarantee it's fear.
And Gen Z says it's not about politics, but there are a lot of politicians involved. And I think that comment, that struck me I think you're right. I think there's a lot of people.
It's all over.
It is all over, but I think there's a lot of politicians, both sides, that they put on the brakes right now. Like, oh crap.
The thing that was really more striking too was the amount of academic institutions, like high level presidents of universities, researchers, and so because what Epstein would do is he would fund research. Because he'd be like funding this research, he'd be funding this at Harvard University, he'd be funding this out in somewhere at a tech out in California, and so he would fund these research projects. He'd fund these individual researchers themselves and invite them to the island, then throw the great massages at them, and so he was able to get himself entrenched in all these different things and all these different people at the highest levels across the spectrum. So we have companies, corporations, academic institutions, and politicians, all at the high level. That's why this network is so intertwined. You're seeing that level of caste system, really, of them being all potentially taken down because he was interweaving everyone together. For what purpose was he doing it? Make himself safe. Because no one's going to take me down, because if you take me down, you're all going down.
Wow.
How do you think some of these folks are handling this right now? Do you think there is intrinsic fear going on with some of these folks at this moment in time, seeing as close, I don't even know how close we truly are to any of this information coming out. It feels like we're closer than we have been in the past, maybe not. Do you think that there is a level of fear with them right now that, oh gosh, this could be exposed? Or are they sitting pretty tight right now, still going, yeah, nothing's going to take me down. It hasn't happened yet. Why would it happen now?
I think everyone feels good until they don't. Because I think what people in desperate situations will align the universe and world around them to feel secure in the moment. And then they breathe a sigh of relief. All right, so we got Bondi to do this, or we got Patel to do this, or the FBI is doing this or not doing this. And so they're able to kind of maneuver themselves into, I'm good. But then all of a sudden, you get one thing that happens, like, the Crown removes the prince status from someone, or a letter comes in from a congressman. And then they go into hyper mode again. So the thing to always watch, again, we don't have this optic because we're not, at that level of behind the scenes, is when a new thing breaks, when a new letter comes in from Congress, when a new public outcry happens, who starts trembling? What tremors in the force you see? So because again, what I do as a behaviorist is you look for deviations from patterns, from life arcs and norms. And anytime you see someone deviate from a behavior spike, something happened there to create a behavior spike. And so what I would be doing if I had the capability, because I don't see behind the scenes, no magic eyes, but I'd be taking this big 50,000 foot optic. And so when a letter from Raskin comes in, something like that comes in, what I want to see is, who all of a sudden starts changing their behavior? Who starts scrambling a little bit? Because that's where you then want to pay attention. Is like, someone's got a little bit of a stress attitude here, stress reaction. So what's causing it? Could be a bad day, but it could have been this. And so I'm always kind of looking for deviations from baselines. That's the only really thing you could do.
And that's what I'm wondering about right now with what we saw with Prince Andrew in the UK in the last week or two, where they stripped him of what's left basically of his titles and such. Is that damage control? Is that preparing for what may be about to come? Or is it just damage control from the book? And it's like, well, there's even more negative stuff coming out about Andrew. Or is it like, this is going to get really bad again really quick, and we'd like to already have been out in front of this going, we've already disowned him weeks ago or months ago or whatever it may be. So the royal family doesn't have this big, smudge all over them. If and when these names start dropping and we learn even more about these web of soul rippers.
Yeah. I think, again, my conjecture on it is that when you have something like the book come out and it names him so explicitly in that book, he's got his lawsuits that he's settled for, that was enough for them to say, hey, there's more here. And also because now it's become very evident that there's a lot of sanctions issues going on, it could tie up a lot more people, and it could get a lot there's a lot more dirt there than's even in the book.
Yeah.
And I think that's why they took that action, because there's no denying it now.
Mhm.
And that's why if I was everyone else, I'd be scrambling, if you're involved in this. And that's why I think there's a lot of silence. And that's why every time you see a letter coming in and it hits like this void, it hits like a black hole. That's very telling. It's never just what people are doing that is telling, it's what they're not doing.
Mm-hmm.
And when you see a collective silence, that says a lot. As much as it is one person or two people screaming about something, that says something about them. But when you hear a collective silence and like a dull thud when something hits, you're like, "Ooh, that says a lot more about what everyone might know than what not." So
there's a lot that could very easily come out. I guess the other question I would have, and I'm interested in your perspective on. Eventually, they're going to have to seat the other congresswoman that will then give us the enough people to vote to have this information come out or have the Epstein files released. Who's to say what's going to be released is going to be of any sort of magnitude of information? I mean, what sort of powers does the DOJ have basically to redact pretty much everything and anything they want to, and it just becomes a document of words and names that are missing, and we're just left exactly where we are right now?
Yeah, that's probably what it will wind up being. I'd imagine, because they have all the sealed, because like Dufresne, she had a lot of sealed documents from the the grand juries, and so a lot of them haven't been unsealed yet. So I imagine there's other girls, all the other girls gave those statements as well. Those are going to be the real what I'd be really interested in is the girl statements. Because those are going to be the ground truth. Those are going to be the granular. Those are going to be the gritty. And those are going to be the ones you really want to talk to. But those are the ones that are the most fearful as well.
Robin, what about the statute of limitations? Are we running out of time? This was asked by Jennifer Nicholson in our chat a while back. I wanted to get to that.
Yeah, and it's a great question, again, because this isn't my violation. I worked, but when I was reading in the book, here the statute of limitations is a big problem in this thing, because kind of a roundabout answer to that is the statute of limitations on these things is coming up. And what I found out by doing, and when we started covering this case, is the statute of limitations is such a small period of time. Meanwhile, women typically don't report these types of things until they hit their 40s. Because of that fear factor, because of working through the trauma, because they feel like it was their fault, because of the way that the groomers made them feel. And so that's why the statute of limitations a lot of times runs out on these things before they make the claims. And then they can start claiming things like false memories. And it's just, she said, she is willing, she's getting money for this. I mean, they're using all the standard tricks to re-victimize the girls on these things. So statute of limitations is definitely not on the victim side on this. That this whole thing, the whole law system, the legal system needs to be revamped when it comes to this. Because I learned an awful lot, because we talk about on the show a lot the false memories that people will have over time. But when it comes to girls that have been abused like this, what happens to their memories is false memories and inaccurate memories can happen when it comes to timelines, when it happens to places and people, not people, places potentially. But when it comes to the individuals themselves, the most accurate is them. Because as Jenna said, when you have a 200 or 300 pound beast on top of you, inches from your face, you never forget that face.
Never. So
they're the ones that you really want to talk to on this. They're the only ones I would trust. Seriously, out of all this, I mean, I won't trust anything coming out of what the government says. I don't know how you make the girls, Nick, I don't know how you inspire the girls to feel safe to share the details of who they were with.
Because Virginia is just one of them, and there's so many more. But they have an interest in continuing their own lives. They have their own futures. They have their own families. They have their own world that they have, if they're still alive. Doesn't necessarily want to revolve around this horrible trauma of their past. But aside from them coming out and telling their stories, I don't know that anyone ever will. And I don't know that we're ever going to get to the bottom of it until all of these this round of abusers that we're talking about here are dead and gone, and then they've essentially won because they got to live their life and get away with it, and then it just becomes some sort of historical detail of these monstrous characters that once roamed the earth.
And that's why I call them soul rippers.
sending. I'm sorry, Robin. We're sending such a horrific message to survivors of assault.
Yeah.
We're saying we don't care about your story. We're saying you're lying. You're making it up. And then there's this other narrative of you've got to tell your story. You have to speak up for yourself. So it's like just this thunderstorm just crashing against each other, and just none of it makes any sense.
It needs to be safe for them to tell their stories.
Exactly.
And that's what we need is an environment where
need
that
a structure
exists.
around you. You know, Jenna talked about, that's why this book is such an important book. She talked about it so perfectly and beautifully in the book. I get so misty when I think about her in that book. She talked about, she wanted to, and she became an advocate for victims like her, but it came at a cost because she was re-traumatized every time she told the story, and she's trying to be just a mother and a wife, and she's trying to be the best step, but every time she's re-traumatized by this, it affected her family. Then the other thing is she was, as she said in her own words, she was unemployable because no one wanted to hire, in her mind, someone that was sex trafficked. And no one wanted to hire someone that was such a public figure. And so she had to take settlements because she had to provide for her family who was unemployable. I mean, it's just, when you she allowed you to walk a mile in her shoes to get that deep active empathy, to understand what goes on and what courage it takes, not just for her, but a team around her to stand with her, to fight the monster machine that Epstein created and all these other monsters create, because they know the system. So, I mean, think about it. So here's Epstein. He's got the most powerful lawyers in the world that know the legal system better than anyone else. They know the loopholes. They know the statute of limitations. And you combine that with their predatory grooming techniques. They know how to victimize so effectively that he operated with impunity. He's throwing little girls at anyone he wanted to without any fear, because and then Maxwell was doing the same thing. All she had to do is recruit one girl, and she then had that girl recruit all the other girls. It's not me, it's all the other girls. And then when they give them money in exchange, well, they're just money hungry. They're money grubbers. I mean, oh my God. Yeah. That's why that's why I use that word soul ripper, because these are not humans. They don't even resonate with the same species in my mind.
Yeah. They know how to work this in such an intricate, monstrous way that it is truly shocking. It's like, how are you processing anything, and this is how it comes out. There's so many questions, and we'll keep covering it. We'll keep seeing what happens here. As of this recording, on that letter that was sent to Bondi, they're demanding by the 10th that an answer is given, and as we've seen already from Bondi, super mature answers like your mother and things like that coming out.
That's a whole other thing.
Essentially, we're dealing with 5-year-olds running the government. I'm
the glass half full. I'm very positive about everything in the world, and here's the good news. Good news is this. Good news is shows like ours. There's a lot of people covering this, and a lot of people holding people accountable in ways they couldn't be held accountable before. Yeah. When Epstein started his monster factory, he had no idea that ever in the history of our species that these types of shows would be out there to force him to be compliant, to force the world to and allow these girls to feel safe to come forward. The more this happens, the better, because all the girls that, even the girls were afraid to talk to each other. Jenna talked about that in the book. They're afraid to talk to each other. When they finally got together, she was holding a retreat from them all to get together. COVID shut it down before it actually happened. But it was just, they were afraid to even talk to each other. That's the fear they had. They couldn't even bond for a long time until they actually finally could, because the shame that they're made to feel. And that's how these horrendous soul rippers do it. God, anyway, I digressed again.
It's okay.
Your thoughts in the comments section. Everybody put it there. We'd love to hear it. Robin's latest book, Unbreakable Alliances. Go check it out wherever books are sold. And press subscribe. as well. I'm going to go bathe in Purell again. I feel like every time we get into this one. But it's an important one, and I'm glad we can have these conversations, and this continues to need to be exposed. And if you feel the same need, share this so other people can hear about it, because I think that's half of it. A lot of people, they don't realize the depth of what the hell has been going on. So please do that. Until next time, for Robin, for Todd, for Stacy, I'm Tony Brueski. We'll talk again real soon.
Want more on this case and others? Then press subscribe now and don't miss a moment of true crime coverage from Tony Brueski and the Hidden Killers podcast. This is Hidden Killers with Tony Brueski. Here now, Tony Brueski.
There is a sickness in this story that is hard to overstate. And it's not new, it's just evolved. Ghislaine Maxwell was supposed to be the cautionary tale. The moment when the system finally proved that power, privilege, and predation could no longer hide behind money or connections, right? Instead, she's become proof that they still can. Maxwell, convicted in 2021 for trafficking minors for Jeffrey Epstein, was sentenced to 20 years in prison. That should have been the end of it. Justice served. Case closed. But here we are, 4 years later, looking at allegations that make it sound like Ghislaine Maxwell isn't living in a prison at all, but in a spa with fences. According to a federal whistleblower detailed in a congressional letter led by Representative Jamie Raskin, Maxwell's life behind bars at federal prison camp Bryan in Texas looks nothing like punishment. Allegedly, she's getting custom-delivered meals, private after-hour exercise sessions, unmonitored computer access, and unbelievably, help from a warden himself to draft a sentence commutation request directly to President Donald Trump, and she gets a puppy. I'm not making it up. And yes, the same woman who helped traffic underage girls for a global network of predators is allegedly writing a personal plea for mercy, not from a place of suffering, but from comfort. And if that weren't enough to make you choke on the hypocrisy, there's this. Ghislaine Maxwell, convicted trafficker, has been allowed to care for and train a puppy as part of a federal prison program. Let that one sink in. While survivors of her crimes live every day haunted by the memories of what she helped orchestrate, the manipulation, the grooming, the night stolen from them, she's out there in a grassy yard tossing a ball to a Labrador puppy, smiling for the cameras like she's in a redemption arc. That image alone, the predator with the puppy, might be the most grotesque representation of misplaced compassion in modern criminal justice. Because this woman is not a symbol of rehabilitation. She's the embodiment of what happens when accountability gets lost in translation between power and punishment. Federal prison camp Bryan isn't supposed to house people like Maxwell at all. In fact, it's a minimum security facility designed for low-risk, nonviolent offenders not convicted of offenses. The Bureau of Prisons' own policies prohibit that kind of placement. Yet, somehow, magically, I don't know how, Maxwell was transferred there from Florida earlier this year. And that transfer, according to the whistleblower, came after a private 2-day meeting with Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche, who just happens to have been President Trump's personal attorney before joining the administration. What a weird coincidence that is. During that meeting, Maxwell reportedly discussed names. Epstein. Connected individuals whose power and influence still hover like ghosts over this entire saga. Then, as if on cue, she lands in one of the softest facilities in the federal system. Her days allegedly filled with gourmet food, private workouts, computer access, and now a puppy to play with. You can't make this up. This is the same woman who facilitated the abusive minors, who recruited teenage girls under false pretenses, who normalized their trauma to make them easier to control. And somehow this system thought it appropriate to hand her a dog, a symbol of innocence, trust, and unconditional love, while the woman she helped destroy spend their lives learning to trust anyone again. It is beyond tone deaf. It is obscene. And yes, it may make you have to rethink the folks you've supported. It may make you have to go, maybe that was a bad choice. Yeah. Feel it. Go down that path. It was. And this is where the outrage stops being abstract and starts being personal, because this is not just about Ghislaine Maxwell. It's about whether justice in America actually means anything when you're rich, connected, or dangerous enough to embarrass the wrong people. Let's talk about the letter from Congress. It asked the Department of Justice 3 very simple questions. Did the White House or anyone in the administration discuss commutation or clemency for Ghislaine Maxwell? Was her transfer to a minimum security facility approved or influenced by someone at the top? Has she or anyone representing her provided information to government officials in exchange for leniency? Those questions exist because lawmakers see the pattern. First, the private meeting with a top justice official. Then, the transfer. Then, the perks. Then, the alleged clemency prep. With help from a warden. It's not a coincidence, it's choreography. And now the American public is watching the story unfold, and it kind of feels like deja vu, because we've seen this before. Jeffrey Epstein got a sweetheart deal back in 2008. He avoided real punishment because people with power protected him. And when that protection finally ran out, he conveniently died before naming names. Now, look, yes, there's plenty of people who have protected these people, and every single one of them should go down. I don't care if you're Democrat, Republican. I don't care if you're a former president, a current president, a wannabe president, this or that. I don't care. If you protected these people, are actively protecting these people, have anything to do with these people, you shall go down. Problem is, it appears there's a lot of people still in power that don't want to go down because, well, they might be somewhat involved. Now his partner in crime, the woman who helped him destroy lives, Epstein's partner in crime, appears to be living comfortably while preparing a plea for mercy from the very government that claims to be cracking down on predators. President Trump has repeatedly said he wants to expose the evil behind child exploitation. He's promised to be tough on traffickers. He's spoken passionately about protecting children from predators and holding the guilty accountable. Good. Then do it. This is where words meet action. Because if these allegations are true, then a convicted child trafficker, a woman who made a career of enabling the worst crimes imaginable, is being treated better than the women she helped victimize. And guess what, mister? We're going to take down predators and drain the swamp and all that shit. It's all happening on your watch, whether you want to admit it or not, and whether you want to admit you voted for him or not. It's your turn. You can't always go back to go, well, what did Biden do? What did Obama do? What did Bush do? What did Clinton do? Clearly not enough. So if you want to be the savior of the world and you want to do the right thing, it's your turn. You can't keep going back and saying, well, the ones before me didn't do anything, so I'm not going to do anything now either. At least that's the excuse that I see all too often online with supporters. Yeah, you're right. In the past, and I'm here to scream, I think most people are here to scream too, they should have. There's blood on their hands too. But it's your turn. And you hold the power now. So fucking do something. This is a moment where every speech about justice, every promise to defend the innocent, every claim to drain the swamp of corruption and privilege is put to the test, because this story isn't just about Ghislaine Maxwell getting a puppy. It's about the message that it sends, that even the worst among us can still buy comfort if they have the right connections. And right now it appears that's exactly what you're enabling. So, Mr. President, it's time to prove the system still has a pulse. If you really meant what you said, and a lot of people very much question that, but here's your chance to stand up. This could be your shining moment. This could be the one you get a lot of people rallying around you going, okay, he is doing something. This could be a moment, if you really meant what you said, that child predators deserve the harshest punishment, then end this farce right now. Order an immediate investigation into Maxwell's transfer and her alleged privileges. Hold the Bureau of Prisons accountable for every decision that put her there, if they had something to do with it, although I think you're going to find the answer lies elsewhere. Make it crystal clear that this administration will not reward sex traffickers with comfort, companionship, and mercy. Because if Ghislaine Maxwell is living like this, it's not rehabilitation, it's reputation management, it's image control for a system terrified of what she might still know. And we all know that's what's happening. And that's what this feels like, doesn't it? Protection, quiet, bureaucratic protection for someone who could burn a lot of people down if she decided to talk. Maxwell's entire life has been transactional. Access for silence, favors for information. That's how she survived. Epstein's downfall, that's how she maneuvered through elite circles while standing knee-deep in evil. And now behind bars, she might be doing it again. Trading secrets for comfort. Trading silence for leniency. Trading her 20-year sentence for the illusion of good behavior and a dog to pet. The Bureau of Prisons won't comment, the DOJ won't clarify, and the survivors, they get to watch all this unfold from the outside, wondering if justice ever existed in the first place. Imagine what this looks like to them. They testified. They relived the worst moments of their lives to make sure Ghislaine Maxwell faced accountability. They sat in that courtroom trembling, staring at the woman who smiled back at them as if none of it mattered. And now they read headlines about her living in comfort, playing with a puppy, maybe even angling for a presidential commutation. How do you explain that to a survivor? That the person who trafficked them gets to rehabilitate her image while they're still in therapy for the rest of their lives? You can't. There's no version of morality where this makes sense. And this is the deeper sickness. Our justice system isn't designed to punish the powerful. It's designed to protect them. Epstein proved it. Maxwell's proving it again. Every time someone like her finds comfort inside a place that's supposed to deliver accountability, it reinforces the same truth. The rich and connected don't serve time. They serve optics. And the optics here are horrific. A convicted sex trafficker in a minimum security camp being allowed to care for a dog, enjoying privileges, preparing a plea for mercy, and doing it all under the watch of an administration that claims to be tough on exactly this kind of crime. It's not about left or right. It's about right or wrong. It's about a justice system that treats monsters with manners. It's about a country that talks about protecting children while letting their abusers rewrite the narrative from behind a fence lined with flowers instead of barbed wire. This shouldn't even be a debate. There should be universal disgust. Every political leader, every prosecutor, every American who's ever cared about fairness should be demanding answers. And if you're not, you are a predator. But there's not a lot of noise, is there? There's a reason for that. Because when a story like this touches power, people go quiet. Well, silence is complicity here. So, Mr. President, if you truly meant what you said about rooting out this evil, then show it. Not a press conference, not a campaign speech, in action. And pretending you don't know who they are, well, that just shows what a pussy you are. to take any sort of action against this bitch. Am I speaking your language? If Maxwell is being treated like a guest instead of a convict, end it. If anyone in your administration facilitated this, fire them. And if she's sent that clemency request, reject it publicly. Make it known that your America, in your America, there's no forgiveness for child traffickers. I don't see why that's a bridge too far. Because anything less than that, anything that looks like indulgence, leniency, or comfort makes the justice system complicit all over again. We've already lost Epstein to suicide. That left more questions than answers. If Maxwell is now being protected in a different way, through comfort, through access, through soft treatment, then it's just another cover-up with a prettier face. The difference is this one's happening in plain sight. And the image, it sums it up. Ghislaine Maxwell, convicted sex trafficker, tossing a ball to a puppy while her victims fight to rebuild their lives. It should be burned into the consciousness of this country. Because it's not just wrong, it's a stain. So, Mr. President, fix it. Because justice isn't justice when the guilty are comfortable, and redemption doesn't come with a leash and a Labrador. Your thoughts in the comments section on YouTube. Please share this if you are outraged. And press subscribe. There's a lot more we're digging into here. And the truth will come out.
Want more on this case and others? Then press subscribe now and don't miss a moment of true crime coverage from Tony Brueski and the Hidden Killers podcast.